LeBron finally shows some evidence that he's human and not a basketball immortal, and we break down last night's tape of one of the worst games of his career. That and a whole lot more in this week's edition of NBA News. Hello everybody, welcome to Awesome Rusty Buckets. If you're over on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and drop a like. And if you want to enjoy this as an audio-only experience, this show is available over on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Last night, the Los Angeles Lakers played the Minnesota Timberwolves, and it was a brutal, brutal game. So let's do a quick film breakdown. So on this possession, we have LeBron isolating against Rudy Gobert. Here he has what would probably be enough of an advantage on Gobert, with Gobert's heels turned here, with him getting ready to turn towards the basket, that it's probably fine and he can probably quite easily get to the rim. However, he has to take the extra step. Rudy Gobert recovers pretty well, and this rise only gets a little bit off of the ground for this floater, and good contest from Rudy Gobert is going to ensure that that is a miss. So, not ideal right there. Here, he misses this corner three-pointer. Rui throws the lob to LeBron, a lob that I would say 9 times out of 10, maybe 10 times out of 10. If this is a younger version of LeBron, he is throwing that down without a doubt, but he barely squeaks that one over the rim. Here, drives inside, yet again another floater, doesn't get it to go. That's a tough shot, so it makes sense that he would miss that, but then he misses the putback that was as open gets. So that's just fucking brutal. There's no other way to describe it besides for that. Then LeBron just throws a turnover. I'm not sure if he was throwing that to Gabe Vincent or D'Angelo Russell. Either way, neither of them seem to know that it was coming. On this possession, we have Naz Reid covering him up top. Decent space on the three, but it's just way off. A decent late contest by Naz Reid as well. Once again, Naz taking him up top. Screen from D'Lo, does not really get the space that he's hoping to. Gets blocked by Naz Reid on that floater. He's going to the floater a lot because that's not really something that LeBron has ever been really known for necessarily. Not that it's a weakness by any means, but not a lot of strong athletic bursts to the rim by any means, more so just relying on these touch shots that aren't going in. Nickeil Alexander-Walker should be a pretty easy mismatch, but doesn't get that shot to go in over him. Not the worst look in the world, but definitely not a great shot. Another turnover by him. I'm not really sure what happened amongst all of that, but another turnover. Here, Jaden McDaniels, a much tougher matchup, actually uses the Anthony Davis, could you qualify that? Yeah, I guess it counts as a screen, barely. Decent look, does not drop. And no analysis besides good look, doesn't go. What's more concerning is when it's attempts where he doesn't have any burst going to the rim, where he doesn't take the types of shots that he would normally take. AD takes this three-pointer and LeBron gets the tip in. Mindfulness to put it up before his feet touch the ground again. Not that it would have been a turnover, but, you know, it doesn't allow the defense to get set. And then this possession right here, Anthony Davis isolating up top. Pass to LeBron. That is a great catch-and-shoot look. Does not drop yet again. His three ball especially has struggled lately in this stretch at shooting 20% on those. Another bad turnover. On this possession, Jaden McDaniels on his back. The fadeaway gets a decent amount of space, but it does not go through. Another three-pointer. Oh my God. I forgot about how bad of an air ball that shot was. That is an egregiously ugly air ball right there. If there's any solace to take from this game, it's that these are mostly jump shots that he is missing, and LeBron's never been the most consistent jump shooter in the world. Gets that one to go over Rudy Gobert, but it's a shot that the defense is willing to let him take, and as his three-point percentage has been dipping, that's a shot that they're also going to be allowing. He has been much better as a three-point shooter in LA than any other point in his career, but not able to take advantage of it as of late. Ironically, maybe the toughest shot he gets all night in traffic over DiVincenzo, over Rudy Gobert. Tough floater with the high angle, and he gets that to drop. Just odd, frankly, that would be the one that would go in. Tries this full court pass, but it's not really there, and DiVincenzo tips the ball away to Nickeil Alexander-Walker. The LeBron, I'm guessing, yep, another fadeaway over Nickeil Alexander-Walker does not go. So yeah, for the most part, it was just missed jump shots, but there was also a pretty clear distinction between what he looks like going to the rim historically versus what he looked like in this game. In fact, I think that shot, I think his putback layup, as well as the tough shot that he hit over Rudy Gobert, were his only paint points, and really his only paint attempts for the most part. The paint attempts that he did get were floaters that were just not even close to going in, and then he, of course, missed that point-blank layup. So, not very explosive around the rim, and then when he is left to rely purely on his jump shot, which has never been something that you can confidently rely on consistently, well, then you're going to get games like this. There's much conversation to have about the Lakers in general, and don't worry, we're going to be having that conversation. But the thing that stood out by far was how bad LeBron was in this game. After a streak of some pretty ugly performances, he had one of the worst games that he has ever played in his entire NBA career. He just barely squeaked over the 10-point minute mark about halfway through the fourth quarter with a free throw when he had 9 points, which has prolonged this stretch of him having the longest consecutive 10-plus point per game streak of any player ever. And it's looking more and more like we might finally see the end to that streak. In his recent game against Utah, he managed to put up 27 points, but he did so on 28 shots. Obviously playing one of the worst teams in the league and not a particularly strong defense at that, and that was the requirement for him to get that amount of points. When you look elsewhere, 12 points on 13 shots versus OKC, 16 points on 18 shots versus San Antonio, 18 points on 16 shots versus Phoenix, 17 shots for 18 points against Denver. Still getting decent assist totals, but he is also getting a shitload of turnovers. Over his last 10 games, he is averaging nearly 5 turnovers per game, which is extremely uncharacteristic. His shooting splits are 42% from the field, 20% from 3, and 78% from the line, which is actually pretty good for LeBron historically, but he is very much struggling to shoot the ball. Just to harp on some points about the Lakers in general, this is not a real NBA roster beyond a couple of players. This team is, I love to talk about how much depth there is in the modern NBA. Oh, look at me, I'm Rusty Buckets, and I think every team has 15 good players. But the Los Angeles Lakers bench is legitimately maybe the worst in the entire league. I think Gabe Vincent and his shooting off of the bench is a great indicator of that, because he has still played substantial minutes despite the fact he was shooting like 5% from 3 up until like a couple of games ago. There's Max Christie, who's okay. Maybe, really, probably someone who shouldn't be a prominent part of your rotation. D'Angelo Russell, who is an inconsistent nightmare, and I think the Lakers should move on from. Rui Hachimura, who's always disappointing to me as an offensive player because I feel like he could be doing so much more. And even the Anthony Davis shtick has not been going as well lately. And one thing that really stood out to me in the Minnesota Timberwolves game was how much the game became give the ball to Anthony Davis and let him figure some shit out. The amount of times that he was isolating or he was initiating the offense, and it wasn't like some predetermined 5 million IQ JJ Redick playmaking hub type shit. No, it was just Anthony Davis bail us out because LeBron is terrible right now. D'Angelo Russell was actually good in this game. There was also no Austin Reeves, which did not help. But there's nothing that we can do here except AD. Hopefully you can hit a mid-range shot over Rudy Gobert. And I mean, he did it a couple of times, but let me tell you, it's not a winning formula. It's not going to succeed for this team, who have been bad on defense the whole year. And we kind of ignored that at first towards the start of the season because their offense was fucking electric. But now that offense is starting to dip in large part because LeBron James has started to dip. This is one of the worst games he's ever played. Probably the worst game he has played since he had 8 points in I don't know, remember what game it was. I think it was game 3 or 4 of the 2011 finals. Probably the worst performance of his career, especially in the context of the fact that he was his absolute peak. But this has sparked a lot of conversation about, is LeBron washed? Is it over? Is it done? Are we finally at the point where LeBron does not look like a top 10 NBA player? I actually did my top 10 players in the league right now. yesterday, and I don't think LeBron made it. I think he was just outside of it. I'll slide him in at the next spot just because he's LeBron and he deserves that credit, but I don't know. And that was me being generous to the fact that he started the season well. If he continues on this downward trend, then LeBron might not even be a top 20 player sooner rather than later. You might look at the fact that he's averaging 19, and that's not that bad. However, you have to recognize that in this modern NBA, there are over 20 individuals who are averaging 20 plus points per game, and all of them are doing it on better efficiency than LeBron has done over this stretch. So I have my concerns. It's not just that he hasn't played well, it's how he hasn't played well, how human he has looked. Feels like it's becoming rarer and rarer for him to dunk. That alley-oop from Rui Hachimura to him, I was like, dude, that is a dunk last year even, but especially a couple of years ago. It's not really a criticism. This is long overdue. I don't even remember what the exact words of that tweet was, but it was like, LeBron's 34 now, this fuckery won't continue on for much longer. It continued on for quite a bit longer. However, it might be over. The fuckery might finally be over at nearly the age of 40. He's still 39, right? Pretty sure. But yeah, anyways, LeBron might be washed. We'll check back in on this after we get some more basketball from him. Hopefully it is just a prolonged ugly streak and it's not a sign of age finally catching up to him, but it might be. It very well might be. The Golden State Warriors, speaking of a hot start that has kind of fizzled out, the Dubs have gone on a 4-game losing streak since the 22nd of November, even after Steph came back with his knee pain. Steph wants more regular lineups as Steve Kerr has been playing a crazy 13-man rotation where nobody plays 30 minutes per game. He said it could help to be more predictable to get players in a better rhythm. You know, the theory of the everybody plays lineup is interesting. I understand where it comes from. I understand the idea behind it, but does it actually work? I'm still very skeptical. And as you see this stretch of games where I don't even remember what the specific game was, but I know Steph was killing it and he played 29 minutes and Steve Kerr didn't play him any bit more, despite the fact that they would have won that game had their best player been in the game for longer. There is a balance to strike where you don't want Steph to have to do too much, but you also don't want to lose games because you're being too conservative about how you're delving out these minutes. So that does have me concerned. I also wasn't that confident in the Warriors' ability to sustain their early success. A lot of it was super hot shooting. A lot of it was Andrew Wiggins looking more to his old form. A lot of it was Buddy Hield being a incredible spark plug off of the bench. Meanwhile, Jonathan Kuminga had a lot of struggles. Meanwhile, Pods has really, really struggled. Draymond Green's been fine. Steph's been fine. Moses Moody has actually been really good, even though he only gets to play 16 fucking minutes a game. But other than that, this is starting to look more and more like a weak roster that had a strong start than an actually very good NBA team. And I don't know. I have my concerns about them. I think the 13-man rotation thing might be more gimmick than it is actually a smart idea in practice. Our players of the week: Alperen Şengün from the Houston Rockets and Jalen Brunson from the New York Knicks. I do want to highlight, because I got some comments about it on the top 10 list, Şengün has been much better offensively lately. And on top of that, he's played some of the best defense, not even some of the best, he's played the best defensive role of his career to this point. He has looked better on that end than he ever has before, to a degree that it's removing a lot of the doubt that myself and many other people have for his ability to be a franchise leading option. But he struggled shooting the ball earlier, so that's the reason I did not rank him initially. But lately, more and more, he is climbing up the ladders of the best players in the league. Jalen Brunson, obviously, also one of the better players in the league. Double-digit assists nearly over this 4-game streak. Had a 17-assist game the other day, somewhere in that ballpark. So yeah, both of them excellent players this week. That would be why they won the award. Taking a quick look at the standings here, we obviously have the OKC Thunder and the Houston Rockets at the top of the West. Memphis also creeping up as they are tied with Orlando for the longest win streak in the NBA. They face Dallas in a cup game tonight where Luka and Ja face off for the first time since 2022. What about the Spurs? You just put the Spurs, exclamation point. The Spurs are good. They're pretty, I mean, it's relative. The Western Conference is a fucking nightmare. But they look just as capable of competing for a playoff spot as the top 12 teams in the West do. Brutal, brutal conference. Over in the East, Cavaliers still up top. They just got a win against the Boston Celtics. Another player I have to apologize for missing out on in my list was that Donovan Mitchell. Complete oversight on my part. Don't know how I missed him, especially because I watched the Cavaliers-Celtics game the night before where he was pretty much single-handedly the reason that they won that game. That's a stretch, but they kind of needed a strong Donovan Mitchell push more so than they have in other games because obviously the Celtics are really fucking good. Celtics didn't have Jaylen Brown, so factor that in with, what you will. But the Sixers are obviously playing like shit, and they are digging themselves into a larger and larger hole as time goes on to where it starts to look concerning if they could even dig themselves out of it. Joel Embiid out with knee issues and personal issues, and Paul George play has been pretty spotty. Jared McCain also looking fantastic as per usual, but that is not really helping them in the win column, unfortunately. And I don't really think that's going to turn around anytime soon. Cam Thomas and LaMelo Ball are both out until December 19th, so if you needed any reason to not watch Charlotte Hornets and Brooklyn Nets games, well, now you have it. Because, God, what a nightmarish experience it is to watch them without these two just going absolutely off. Scottie Pippen seems to have sold his Twitter account, posting some wild shit. There was who would win in a 7-game series, the Bulls versus AI. How many championships would we have won with Elon Musk? I pray to God that he sold it and he didn't just break his brain. It's possible that he just broke his brain. And there was an article from SB Nation that had a great quote that I want to read to you. Elon Musk is listed at 6'2", which we'll take as fact. The last part of the equation is working out Elon's wingspan. Thankfully, this photo of him with Ghislaine Maxwell is perfect to work out his arm length. Need I say more? What ridiculous shit. What dude's either senile or he sold his account. Either way, it's desperate and sad. And my tweet here saying I was right to be a hater. I was. I've been a Scottie Pippen hater for years. Not for this reason, but I'll take it.
I want to address the other tweet on the screen because you mentioned it in passing, and I don't think it's obvious for our audio listeners exactly what it is. The Bulls versus AI in a 7-game series is not Allen Iverson, but artificial intelligence.
Yes. If you're watching the audio or listening to the audio version, also, goddamn, Michael Jordan is yoked in this image, but whatever. For the record, Elon Musk would make the Bulls worse. Just putting that out there. The guy who doesn't play professional sports wouldn't be very good at them. We'll see how long this account can grift and get a bunch of engagement until it inevitably dies out, and whoever paid for this account wasted their fucking money. We're also going to be checking out this article by The Ringer, which are some early hot takes for the season. But the first one is that the Memphis Grizzlies are legitimate contenders. As we highlight in the standings, they are now the 3rd seed in the Western Conference. And given that they have the depth that they do, if they get healthy, then they are terrifying. But we've kind of said that for a decent stretch. Now, I don't think that's necessarily true of the past where it's like as soon as they get healthy, they're in contender category. But like if Ja continues to be a superstar, if Jaren Jackson plays at the level that he has, which had me ranking him as a top 10 NBA player, then yeah, that on top of the fact that they have as much depth as they have ever had, and maybe any NBA team has ever had, because there are genuinely 13 real playoff rotational players on that roster, then at that point, we are talking about a very, 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 very deep team that is not exactly lacking in the talent department at the top of things. So I agree with this assessment. I just think they haven't really been able to make noise because the way that they've been winning has been so not noisy, I guess. As soon as you get a decent stretch of Ja Morant playing big minutes consistently and making highlight plays, and you're like, oh, wow, look at this. They're also winning everything ever. Then yeah, maybe we'll actually start to see some more chatter like this, but I don't even think this is super disputable. If the health permits it, the Grizzlies can be one of the best teams in the NBA and compete for the title. The new All-Star Game format is promising. From Howard Beck. I know, just about everyone thinks this is a lost cause. You probably fall into one of the two camps, those who consider the game broken and beyond salvaging, or those who think it's fine, flaws and all. But please join me for a moment of the All-Star Game is broken, but we can and should be saved. But can and should be saved Island. We're still workshopping the name. Yeah, clearly. The latest reported proposal, a 4-team mini tournament, holds real promise. The 24 All-Stars would be divided into 3 teams of 8. The 4th team would be the winner of the Rising Stars / Rookie Sophomore game. They would play a single elimination bracket style tournament, so we'd get 2 semifinal games, then a championship featuring the 2 winners. Instead of a clock, they will play to a target score, 40 points in the semifinals, 25 points in the finals. I mean, yeah, I like it. I'm in favor of shaking it up over and over again until we finally land on something that sticks. And there's no reason to just keep doing the same thing, because the same thing is dreadful. It's one of the most boring. Like, I can't imagine having this much talent on one court and making a more boring product than the NBA has in recent years. So yes, I'm all in favor, and I think the tournament style thing is a lot more interesting, a lot more to get invested in. Nikola Jokic will win, but the Nuggets won't. From Zach, why did I say your name like that? From Zach Cram, Nikola Jokic is playing the best basketball of his celebrated career, and he's the obvious MVP favorite, whether you're looking at traditional stats, advanced metric, or on-off data. Plus, this way, he's already won 3 MVPs in 4 years, and now he's even better. So essentially, the take being Jokic is going to win his 4th MVP, but the Nuggets are not going to win a championship. Yeah, I mostly agree with that. Now, I'm not all that confident that Jokic actually will win this MVP, because I do think it's predicated on him continuing to average a triple-double, because I think if his stats fall more to the wayside of what they had been previously, then there's just going to be an eagerness to put somebody else in that spot, on top of the fact that the Nuggets, as highlighted here, are 10-8. They are, I believe, the 8th or 9th seed in the Western Conference right now. If they end up being a play-in team and his stats are the same as last year, he's not going to win it. Plain and simple, I just think there will be better candidates, and I think there will be an eagerness to find someone else to give it to. So I'm going to go no. I don't really think Jokic is going to win MVP, because I don't think he's going to average what he's averaging right now for the entire season. But if he did, and the Denver Nuggets ended up being a top 5 seed, then he absolutely will win the MVP. And I'm not all that confident that they can win in the West. Not saying they won't, not saying they can't, but it's definitely not going to be as much of a cakewalk as it was in 2023. Kevin Durant will make MVP voting history. I'm curious what you mean from that. From Danny Chow, it's difficult to overstate how easy Kevin Durant makes the game of basketball look. We can skim this a little bit. He's become undeniable as a defensive fulcrum on a Suns team that's few rotation pieces short on both the perimeter and interior. Durant's versatility as a help defender is the difference between Phoenix's top 10 defensive rating when he's on the court and bottom 5 defensive rating when he's off. The Suns are 10-2 when he plays and 1-6 when he's sat out due to injury. There is no denying Durant's value even at age 36, an age that has for decades been seen as the ultimate cliff of the life cycle of a superstar. Karl Malone is the oldest MVP recipient in league history. He was 35 when he received the award in 1999. No one older than 35 has ever finished in the top 3 in voting. Health permitting, that could change this season. Okay, so oldest player to ever finish top 3 in voting. It'll be entirely determined by how much he actually plays. He has been great for Phoenix. I think he's been, in the stretch that he has played, a better player. We're talking about 12 games here, but the best version of Kevin Durant that we have seen since he has left the Warriors is this version of Kevin Durant. I think this MVP race will be quite what's the word I'm looking for? Competitive. There's a lot of people who are going to have a good chance at the award, but if he ends up playing the games required, if Phoenix ends up finishing as a higher seed, and it is in large part because he, A, has had an incredible level of impact on the defensive end of the floor, more so than he has maybe at any other stage of his career, and then 2, his shot diet has improved in a way that has dramatically improved just the way the teams defend him, I think. Yeah, I think he has a very strong chance of finishing top 3. I doubt he would win it. That would especially break precedent. But yes, I'm okay with that take. That's fair. Jared McCain's game will overshadow the TikToks. Sure. I mean, it already has, hasn't it? That's kind of a lukewarm take. Benedict Mathurin is a future all-star. Hard disagree. He's been really good so far this year, but in order to be one of the best players in the NBA, one of the top 20 players in the NBA, you can't be just one thing. In the modern NBA, that's just not how it works. There just is nobody who is in that category who does one thing really well and then is not a strong defender, a terrible black hole of a playmaker, just does not have any kind of vision whatsoever. He scores the ball well. He's been shooting his threes really well. That's another thing that he's struggled with consistency on. But there are plenty of dudes who can score the ball, and that's all that they do. So unless he dramatically overhauls his game in a way that would be very difficult for someone at this stage of his career to do, because let me look up Benedict Mathurin. He's in his 3rd year. He's 22. He's averaging 18 points. Wow, 2 whole assists per game. 7 boards as well, so he's a pretty good damn rebounder. I'll give him that as well. Good 3-point percentage on not the highest volume in the world. He's also getting a lot of attempts at the rim, which is nice. So, like, in terms of scoring the ball, Benedict Mathurin pretty much has the whole package. He has no issue putting the ball in the basket, and I would never dispute that he has any issue putting the ball in the basket. But is he going to develop an all-around game strong enough for him to compete for an all-star spot? No, I really doubt it. And to overhaul your playmaking and defense to the degree that he would need to make that happen, it's just not easy to see that happen. It's not common to see that happen. It doesn't not happen, but it is profoundly unlikely. So I'm going to have to disagree with the Ringer on that one and Matt Dollinger. I just don't think that that's going to happen. But yeah, that was the Ringer's 6 early NBA takes we want to plant our flag on. Good article, mostly good takes. Gonna have to disagree on you on the last one. But yeah,